Alien girl mocked human classmate, then discovers his earthly origin. The Galactic Unity Academy floated silently above a blue-white star. It was one of the most respected learning centers in known space. Young minds from hundreds of species came here to study science, strategy, diplomacy, and survival. Every student believed they belonged among the future leaders of the galaxy. Humans were the newest addition. Most species did not understand why humans had been invited at all. Lyrian stood near the observation window of Classroom 7, her four-fingered hands folded behind her back. She was tall for her species, with smooth, silver-blue skin and eyes that reflected light like polished glass. Her people came from a world with low gravity and advanced technology. Strength was engineered. Survival was calculated. She looked perfect, confident, and superior, and she knew it. Behind her, students whispered as a human walked into the room. He looks so small. Is he injured? Why does he walk like that? Earth gravity damages their bodies, right? Lyrian allowed herself a small smile. The human took a seat near the back. He was not tall. His shoulders were narrow compared to most species in the room. He wore the standard academy uniform, but it looked heavy on him, as if it were built for something larger. His name, according to the display, was Ethan Cross. Origin, Earth. Lyrian turned to her friends and spoke just loudly enough to be heard. "So that is a human," she said. "I expected more." A few students laughed. Ethan heard it. He did not react. That annoyed her. Professor Kale entered the room, his tall, insect-like form commanding immediate silence. He was a veteran tactician, famous for surviving 3 interstellar conflicts. "Today," Kale said, "we will discuss conflict theory, not weapons, not fleets, minds." The lights dimmed and a star map appeared. "Imagine," the professor continued, "your colony has been surrounded, supplies are low, escape routes are blocked, the enemy offers surrender. What do? Hands rose instantly. A crystalline student spoke first. "Surrender, survival is logical." Another added, "Negotiate, prolong life." Lyrian raised her hand confidently. "You analyze power balance," she said. "If defeat is certain, surrender prevents extinction." The professor nodded slowly. "And you?" Kale asked, turning his many eyes toward the back of the room. Ethan looked up, surprised to be addressed. "Me, sir." "Yes, the human." All eyes turned toward him. Lyrian crossed her arms, waiting for embarrassment. Ethan stood. His posture was calm, not proud, not afraid. "If surrender leads to extinction later," he said, "then surrender is not survival." The room grew quiet. Kale tilted his head. "Explain." Ethan took a breath. "If the enemy gains total control, they decide your future. If they already want you gone, surrender only delays the end. Resistance changes the cost." Some students shifted uncomfortably. "Cost?" Kale asked. "You make it expensive to destroy you," Ethan said simply. "Even if you lose, you make sure they remember it." A low murmur spread through the class. Lyrian laughed openly now. "That is irrational," she said. "Why fight when the outcome is known?" Ethan looked at her. Not with anger, not with pride. "With respect," he said. "Outcomes are rarely known." The professor raised a claw, silencing the room. "Sit," Kale said to Ethan. His eyes lingered longer than expected. The lesson continued, but Lyrian found herself distracted. The human had not argued like a fool. He had not shown fear. He had spoken like someone who had seen loss before. That did not fit the image she had of humans. After class, the corridor filled with voices and motion. Lyrian walked with her friends, her mind still sharp with irritation. "Did you hear him?" one of them said. "Making threats like a predator." "Empty words," Lyrian replied. "Humans have never fought real wars." That was when she noticed Ethan ahead of them, struggling slightly with a gravity shift zone. The Academy adjusted gravity for different species, but humans had limited tolerance. He steadied himself against the wall, then continued walking. Lyrian felt a strange satisfaction. She caught up to him easily. "Human," she said, "do you always speak so boldly in class?" He stopped and turned. Yes, he said, when asked. That theory you gave, she continued, would get entire species wiped out. Maybe, Ethan replied, or maybe it keeps them alive. She tilted her head. You think your species understands survival better than the rest of us? No, he said, just differently. She laughed again, sharper this time. Your planet is backward, high disease rates, constant conflict, primitive technology compared to ours. Ethan nodded slowly. That's true. Her smile widened. Then why are you here? He thought for a moment. Because we survived it, he said. The answer caught her off guard. She scoffed. Survived? Barely. Earth should have wiped you out. It tried, Ethan said calmly. Silence followed him like a shadow as he walked away. Lyrian watched his back, her expression unreadable. Later that night, in her private research pod, she accessed the public database on Earth. Mostly basic information: climate instability, biological threats, internal wars. Primitive. Chaotic. She was about to close the file when she noticed a warning symbol. Environmental hazard rating. Extreme. That was unusual. She clicked deeper. Earth's gravity alone exceeded Academy norms. Its atmosphere supported thousands of lethal organisms. Its tectonic activity regularly destroyed cities. Its history showed repeated near-extinction events. And yet, humans endured. Lyrian leaned back, frowning. That did not make sense. Species from safer worlds had collapsed under far less stress. She remembered Ethan's words. Outcomes are rarely known. She closed the file, shaking her head. No, she whispered. You're still weak. But for the first time, the word did not sound convincing, even to herself. Lyrian told herself she had already forgotten the human. That was a lie. During the next few days at the Galactic Unity Academy, she noticed Ethan Cross everywhere. Not because he tried to stand out, but because he never did. He sat quietly during lectures. He listened more than he spoke. When others argued loudly, he waited. When others panicked, he stayed still. That calm began to disturb her. In the physiology lab, students tested endurance limits using controlled stress chambers. Each chamber adjusted gravity, temperature, and air density to match a species' home world. Lyrian's people were efficient. They did not push past limits. There was no honor in pain, only data. When it was Ethan's turn, the system hesitated. Human parameters detected, the instructor said. Warning, extended exposure not recommended. Some students snickered. Lyrian watched closely. The gravity increased to Earth standard, then slightly higher to test adaptation. Ethan's face tightened. His breathing slowed. His muscles trembled, but he did not stop. Test complete, the instructor announced. Human tolerance within acceptable range. Acceptable, Lyrian frowned. That gravity would injure her species in minutes. Later, during a tactical simulation, alarms suddenly rang out. The Academy announced a surprise emergency drill. Lights flickered. Holographic smoke filled the corridors. Students reacted as expected. Some froze, some screamed, some ran in the wrong direction. Ethan did not. He moved quickly but carefully. He pulled two smaller students out of a blocked passage and guided them toward an emergency exit. He spoke calmly, giving short instructions. Breathe, follow the lights. Stay low. Lyrian watched from a distance, her heart beating faster than it should. Why was he so ready? After the drill ended, instructors praised cooperation and calm thinking. But Lyrian noticed something else. The human's hands were shaking afterward, not from fear. From exhaustion. That night, curiosity finally defeated her pride. In her private pod, Lyrian opened the restricted archives again. This time, she did not stop at the surface. She searched Earth history. What she found unsettled her. Wars that lasted decades. Weapons powerful enough to destroy cities. Plagues that wiped out millions. Climate disasters that reshaped continents. Earth was not just dangerous. It was relentless. She read about generations raised during conflict. Children learning to survive before they learned peace. Societies breaking and rebuilding again and again. And through it all, humans adapted. They changed tactics, they invented, they endured. A classification note flashed on the screen. Species profile, humans. Conditional, Lyrian stared at the word. Her people had always believed strength came from perfection, control, balance, planning. Humans had none of that. Their world was unstable. Their history was violent. Their biology was fragile. So why were they still here? The next day, the Academy announced a joint field exercise. Students would be grouped by species diversity and dropped into a controlled wilderness zone. The goal was simple: survive for 48 cycles using limited resources. Lyrian was confident. Until she saw the group list. Her name was paired with Ethan S. She felt a sharp wave of irritation. "This is inefficient," she said when she saw him. "Our methods will conflict." "Maybe," Ethan replied. "Or maybe they'll balance," she snorted. "You assume much." The drop zone activated. They landed in a rocky environment with low light and uneven terrain. The air was breathable but thin. Temperature fluctuated rapidly. Within minutes, one of the alien students twisted a limb. Panic followed. Lyrian began calculating rescue signals. Ethan knelt beside the injured student. "Can you move your fingers?" he asked. "Yes, barely." "Good," Ethan said. "That means it's not broken." He tore fabric from his own sleeve and created a support wrap. His movements were practiced. "You've done this before," Lyrian said sharply. "Yes," he answered. She didn't ask where. Hours passed. Hunger set in. Cold crept through their shelter. Lyrian's body reacted poorly to the temperature shifts. Her vision blurred. Her limbs felt heavy. She hated it. Ethan noticed immediately. "You're overheating," he said. "Your skin tone changed." "I am fine," she insisted. "You're not," he replied. "Sit down." She wanted to argue. Instead, her legs failed her. He adjusted her breathing pace, shielded her from the wind, and shared his ration without hesitation. "Why?" she asked weakly. "Because you're part of the group," he said, "and we don't leave people behind." That phrase struck something deep inside her. No alien doctrine, she knew, said that. They said survival of the whole mattered, not individuals. Night fell. Strange sounds echoed through the rocks. Simulation predators moved in the distance. Sensors warned of approaching danger. Some students panicked again. Ethan stood. "Stay quiet," he said. "They track noise." "How do you know?" Lyrian whispered. "Because predators on Earth do the same," he answered. The creatures passed without incident. When dawn arrived, the group was exhausted but alive. Back at the academy, instructors reviewed the results. Ethan's name appeared repeatedly in the performance logs: leadership under pressure, adaptive problem solving, risk awareness. Lyrian sat in silence. Her world had never forced her to be like that. Later, she found Ethan alone in the observation hall, looking at the stars. "You saved us," she said. "We saved each other," he replied. She hesitated. "Earth," she said slowly. "Is it always like the records say?" He nodded. "Sometimes worse." "And yet," she said, "you act as if danger is normal." "It is," Ethan said, "for us." She looked at him then, not as a joke, not as a weak species, but as something unfamiliar, something shaped by struggle. That night, Lyrian could not sleep. For the first time in her life, she felt something new. Not superiority, not anger, fear, not of humans, but of what they had survived and what that survival had made them. The day began like any other at the Galactic Unity Academy, but the calm of the morning was deceiving. Students gathered in the central training field for a combined species exercise. This time, the instructors had introduced a new challenge: a full-scale simulated invasion. Artificial drones would swarm in waves, testing strategy, adaptation, and leadership under extreme conditions. Lyrian felt confident. Her calculations were precise. She knew every strategy, every advantage her species held over humans. She looked at Ethan Cross, the quiet human who had recently unsettled her, and felt a mixture of irritation and curiosity. "This is your chance," she muttered under her breath. "Show everyone why humans are still weak." Ethan didn't respond. He just adjusted the straps on his pack, calm as always. The signal sounded. The field erupted in chaos. Drones swarmed from every direction. Some students panicked instantly. They ran blindly, collided with each other, or misused their equipment. Others tried to fight but lacked coordination. Lyrian moved with efficiency, precise steps calculated to avoid danger. She thought she had everything under control. Then she noticed Ethan. He didn't panic. He didn't run. Instead, he scanned the field, moving quickly between students, shouting short, clear instructions. "Form a circle. Cover the perimeter," he commanded. "Focus on the drones at the left. Watch the blind spots." Lyrian froze. His voice cut through the chaos with authority, but it wasn't arrogance. It was calm, deliberate, and focused. He was not ordering. He was coordinating. Her mind raced. How could a human do this? A group of younger alien students panicked near a collapsed training tower. Drones swarmed close. Ethan sprinted toward them, assessing risks in seconds. He grabbed one student and rolled to safety, then pulled another out just in time. Lyrian realized something. He wasn't fast, he wasn't strong. He didn't need to be. He simply used what he had. Adaptation, timing, and focus. A drone attacked Lyrian from behind. She dodged with reflex, but her mind lingered on Ethan. She watched him again, issuing commands, protecting weaker students. His calm presence steadied others. She felt a strange emotion, envy mixed with admiration. She had been trained to be perfect, yet here was a human who thrived in chaos. Hours passed. Exhaustion set in. Students collapsed. Some species had limits their bodies could not endure. Humans, by contrast, continued, faltering but never giving up. Ethan paused only to assess, conserve energy, and push forward again. Then came the real test. The simulation introduced a critical failure scenario. Life support systems dropped, terrain became unstable, and the drones increased in speed and strength. Students screamed. Lyrian's body began to protest the gravity and temperature fluctuations. Her species had never trained in these conditions for so long. She faltered. Ethan appeared at her side without hesitation. "Move here," he said, positioning her behind a rock that partially blocked drone attacks. He checked her respirator and water supply. "You're exposed." "Stay low." She wanted to snap at him. Instead, she felt relief. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice low. "Because if you fall, our group fails," he replied. Simple, logical, human. The irony was painful. Lyrian, the proud alien, dependent on a human. Minutes later, the final wave began. The drones were faster, stronger, and smarter. Most students scattered or froze. Ethan rallied the group, analyzing their movements, coordinating attacks, and improvising traps. He redirected the drones, leading them into areas where weaker students were safe. Every decision he made was precise, yet made in real time. Lyrian fought alongside him. She realized she had been wrong about humans. Not only were they not weak, they thrived under pressure. Their adaptability, resilience, and refusal to quit made them unpredictable, dangerous, and above all, alive in a way her species rarely was. Ethan paused for a moment. He saw a trap that could collapse on Lyrian. He sprinted, pushed her to safety, and rolled her out of the path. "Careful," he said. "The ground is unstable here." She nodded, breathless. "How do you know all this?" "Experience," he said simply. "Earth teaches quickly." She had read about Earth's disasters, wars, and challenges. She had believed humans survived by luck. Now she saw it wasn't luck. It was training, endurance, and instinct forged through constant danger. The simulation ended hours later. Exhausted, muddy, and battered, students were counted and graded. Instructors whispered among themselves, their logbooks full of notes about the human. Ethan's name appeared repeatedly. Leadership under pressure, quick decision-making, resilience, adaptability. Lyrian sat alone for a moment, staring at the ground. She could not deny it anymore. Humans were dangerous, not in strength, but in their will to survive. She thought of the way he had calmly commanded, protected, and adapted. She thought of how he had endured conditions her own species could not, and she realized something frightening. Humans didn't just survive, they learned, adapted, and improved from survival itself. Her pride twisted in her chest. She had mocked him. She had laughed at Earth. She had assumed humans were fragile and irrelevant, and now she felt a strange mix of shame and awe. For the first time, she wanted to understand, not mock. "Ethan," she said, approaching him quietly. He looked up, tired but composed. "Lyrian." You were incredible out there," she said. The words felt strange on her tongue. "I underestimated humans," he shrugged. "We're not perfect, just persistent, persistent." The words struck her harder than any insult or calculation. They walked back to the academy together. Lyrian's mind replayed every moment of the exercise. Every panic, every decision, every calm command from Ethan. She realized that her people measured strength by perfection, speed, and raw power. Humans measured it by how much they could endure before refusing to break. The next day, the academy held a debrief. Instructors discussed strategy, coordination, and performance. Lyrian stayed silent, listening. She expected praise for herself, but the human received more attention than anyone else. Not for his abilities, but for his ability to keep fighting when others failed. During the discussion, a senior instructor asked, "What can we learn from human behavior?" Lyrian wanted to say nothing. Her pride screamed at her, but she spoke anyway. "They adapt," she said slowly. "They remain calm when others panic. They survive in conditions that would kill most species. They do not rely on perfection, they rely on persistence." The instructor nodded. "Exactly. Humans do not dominate by strength. They dominate by endurance, by creativity, and by refusing to quit." Lyrian's eyes shifted to Ethan. He smiled faintly. No arrogance, no pride, just quiet confidence. She realized with a shock that humans were not weak. They were something far more dangerous, unpredictable, relentless, alive. That night, Lyrian sat in her private pod staring at the stars. She thought about Earth, about wars, disasters, and constant survival, about Ethan, about how much she had mocked humans before truly understanding them. Her pride burned, but a new feeling grew stronger: respect. Humans were not her equals, not yet, but they were not to be underestimated. And she knew one thing clearly: the galaxy had not seen the full measure of human potential. Lyrian leaned back, eyes fixed on the distant stars. She whispered softly to herself, almost in awe, "They endure no matter what." Her admiration was tinged with fear, and for the first time she wondered, what would happen if humans were pushed to their limit? What would they do when the entire galaxy tried to break them? She didn't have to wait long to find out. The days after the simulated invasion were quiet, but tension lingered in the halls of the Galactic Unity Academy. Students whispered about the human, Ethan Cross, and the alien girl, Lyrian, who had started to follow him everywhere, not out of friendship but curiosity. Lyrian's pride no longer dictated her thoughts. Every day she observed humans more closely, studying their behavior, their choices, and their endurance. Each moment revealed something she had never anticipated. Humans were not just survivors, they were teachers of survival. The Academy announced another challenge, one meant to test students' leadership and courage: a cross-species expedition to the volatile Ashen Fields. The area was infamous for unpredictable terrain, sudden storms, and natural predators. Only students who demonstrated strategic thinking in the previous exercises were allowed to participate. Lyrian's group included humans, her own people, and others. At first, she planned to lead, assuming her calculations and strength would ensure victory. But when Ethan quietly assessed the landscape, checked supplies, and organized the group, she realized he had already assumed leadership without a single demand. "Divide the rations," he said calmly. "Check everyone's equipment. Watch the unstable cliffs." Lyrian felt a sharp pull of respect, and something else, a kind of nervous excitement. She had never encountered a student who commanded without asserting dominance. Hours into the expedition, the ashen fields lived up to its reputation. A sudden tremor sent boulders rolling down a slope. Many students froze. Lyrian's first instinct was to calculate escape routes, but she found herself following Ethan's lead instead. "Move diagonally to the right," he instructed. "Stay low, keep together." The group moved as one. Ethan helped weaker students climb over jagged rocks. When one of her own species struggled with the weight of a heavy pack, he adjusted it, giving them balance and guidance. Lyrian's mind raced. He was not strong in the physical sense, yet he moved with efficiency, precision, and intelligence that far surpassed most of her peers. By mid-cycle, the expedition faced a sudden storm. Lightning fractured the skies. Strong winds threatened to sweep students off the cliffs. Many species panicked. Lyrian's body, adapted to controlled conditions, struggled against the chaos, and yet Ethan remained steady. "Hold the line," he shouted. "Anchor the ropes, stay close to the rocks." "Move as I count." Students obeyed without hesitation. His voice carried authority not because it was loud, but because it inspired trust. Lyrian realized something astonishing. Humans survive because they inspire others, not just by brute force. As the storm passed, instructors monitored the expedition from above. They noted the group's resilience and leadership patterns. Lyrian felt a mix of pride and humiliation. Pride because she had survived alongside humans. Humiliation because she had once mocked them, assuming weakness where there was strength. By nightfall, the expedition reached a shelter, an ancient stone formation providing protection. Students huddled together, exhausted but safe. Lyrian sat quietly, watching Ethan check everyone's condition. "You never stop," she said softly. Ethan looked up. "Stop what?" "Helping, leading, protecting. You never give up." He shrugged. "That's what humans do. Survival is not a solo effort. It's about keeping the group alive, keeping hope alive." She thought about Earth, about wars, disasters, and constant challenges. The human spirit was forged in struggle, and it was visible now, not as weakness or randomness, but as unbreakable persistence. Lyrian's mind replayed every lesson she had learned over the past cycles. Humans were not dominant by strength or intelligence. They were dominant by their will to endure, adapt, and protect others. That was their secret. That was what made them formidable. The next day, the expedition ended successfully. Instructors debriefed the students. Reports highlighted Ethan's performance, leadership under extreme conditions, quick strategic thinking, adaptation under stress. Lyrian listened silently, feeling a new kind of admiration, one she had never allowed herself before. During the ceremony, a senior instructor addressed the group. "Let this expedition teach all of you," he said. "Some species rely on strength, some on speed, some on calculation. Humans rely on endurance, adaptability, and unity. That is why they survive." Lyrian's gaze fell on Ethan. He did not look proud. He only smiled faintly, calm and composed, as if it were nothing extraordinary. After the ceremony, students returned to their quarters. Lyrian approached him. "I owe you an apology," she said. "I mocked you before. I thought humans were weak. I was wrong." Ethan tilted his head. "You're learning," he said simply. "That's all that matters." I don't just respect you," Lyrian admitted. "I want to understand you, your species, why you survive when others fail." He nodded, faintly smiling. "You already see part of it. Humans survive because we cannot help but endure, and because we choose to protect others even when it's hard." Her mind spun. She had studied thousands of species, countless strategies, and endless simulations. But nothing prepared her for this simple truth. Humans were not predictable. They were not calculated. They were alive in a way her people rarely were, willing to adapt, persist, and sacrifice when needed. Word of the expedition spread quickly throughout the academy. Teachers and students alike began reevaluating their assumptions. Humans were no longer the weakest species. They were worthy of respect and caution. Lyrian found herself speaking for humans more often, defending their choices, explaining their unique strengths. She no longer felt embarrassment when she spoke of Earth. Instead, she felt pride, not for her people, but for the human spirit itself. Weeks later, during a joint tactical exercise with multiple species, an unexpected emergency struck. A simulated power failure caused multiple environmental systems to collapse simultaneously. Panic erupted. Students from most species froze, some retreated blindly, but the humans, led by Ethan, remained focused. He guided them, formed quick plans, and adapted on the fly. Lyrian, who had once relied solely on calculation and superior strength, realized she needed him. They worked together, side by side, coordinating defenses and ensuring all students survived the crisis. She felt something she had never felt before: trust, unshakable and instinctive. After the exercise, the instructors summarized the results. Today, humans demonstrated not only resilience, but leadership, innovation, and the ability to inspire others, a senior instructor announced. Other species would do well to observe, learn, and respect these qualities. Lyrian's eyes met Ethan's. She no longer felt superiority, only admiration and respect. Later, alone in her observation pod, she gazed out at the stars. She thought about the galaxy, full of species who measured power by brute force, calculation, or perfection. And she thought about humans who survived in chaos, hardship, and endless struggle. They were not perfect. They were not the fastest, the strongest, or the most intelligent, but they endured. And endurance, she realized, was stronger than perfection, stronger than technology, stronger than any plan. Ethan walked in quietly, carrying a small data pad. "I thought you might want to see this," he said. It was a summary of human history, disasters, wars, and achievements, but it was not a list of weakness. It was a story of survival, adaptation, and hope. "Humans are remarkable," Lyrian admitted finally. "Not remarkable," Ethan said, smiling faintly. "Persistent." Lyrian nodded. That word, persistent, would stay with her forever. By the time the academy term ended, humans were no longer considered fragile or weak. They were respected, not feared, not hated, but respected. And Lyrian had changed. She no longer mocked them. She no longer assumed superiority. Instead, she followed, learned, and adapted. In the end, she realized the most important lesson of all. The galaxy could have the strongest species, the fastest, or the smartest. But humans, when truly tested, could endure anything. And endurance, combined with courage and ingenuity, made them unstoppable in ways no one expected. As the stars stretched infinitely beyond the observation window, Lyrian whispered softly, almost in awe, "Humans, you are the last line when everything else fails." Ethan looked at her, calm as ever, and said, "We survive. That's all we know how to do." And for the first time, Lyrian did not doubt him. The galaxy had finally learned what she had discovered. Humans did not conquer through power, wealth, or technology. They conquered through heart, persistence, and an unbreakable will to survive. And that was worth more than anything else in the stars.